Welcome to the Las Vegasville podcast, brought to you by Jump Studios, where we cover topics related to everything happening around Sin City, including the social media scene, food, and a whole lot more, with some of the best, most popular accounts around the city, and talk about their success in Vegas and beyond. I'm your host, Philip Zhang, aka Las Vegas Phil. Check me out on IG or TikTok. On with the show. Welcome to this week's show. Back after an unintentional hiatus. We've got a really interesting one here as we're talking about tipping. I was initially inspired to do this episode. Ayumi and I went to one Japanese restaurant maybe about 2 months ago, and then another set of influencers went, and the chef and staff relayed a message to them that they spoke very highly of me and Ayumi. They said we took care of them. We were one of the few influencers that came in, tipped, and treated them with respect. And that's all a nice note and whatever, but this should be the fucking standard. So it makes me wonder, what the fuck is everyone else doing out there where we're just acting like normal human beings, just being nice and tipping? So we've got a great staff here to talk about that. Tipping is actually an acronym for to ensure promptness. And since Vegas is the tipping capital of the world, this is just the reality, and it's honestly never going to change here in Vegas unless robots take over, and they're still asking for tips anyway. So with this panel, we've got experience on both sides, both on the influencer side and the hospitality side, and social media management. I think we've all experienced tipping through influencers in different ways, and it's kind of been eyebrow raising, I guess. But we all got crazy stories like that. So we got two new faces on the show. To my right is Perletta with over 113K on TikTok and 12K on IG. Perletta covers a lot of great stuff on her channels, from lifestyle and fashion to food and events and home cook stuff. Maybe the next big home cook on TikTok. And that's the kind of stuff. Her recipes are amazing. You should definitely check those out. She also works on the Strip, manages social media, and has a lot of insight on tipping. Welcome, Perletta, to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Over on my far right is Sammy Morrissey. I'd best describe her as a one-woman army, as a full-time social media manager for a lot of great brands. They run the gamut beyond just food. She's also a selfie expert and has amassed an awesome following on her own personal brand. I think JT was the one that actually initially got you into.
Yes, actually, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, so shout out to JT Takes a Bite.
JT.
And then she's got over 30K on TikTok and 142K on IG. I've asked her to be on the show a couple times, and thankfully schedules aligned to make this happen. Welcome, Sammy, to the show. And then finally, if you don't know the legend Ryu Sauce by now, welcome to your first episode of the show. Great to have you back as always.
Absolutely, anytime. I'm here.
So let's talk about tipping from a Vegas influencer point of view. Now, when you guys go to an event, what's your feeling on tipping when you go to an event these days?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Me? Okay. So I typically do the standard at least 20%, just because even if it is like a collaboration or a partnership, even if it's something that's paid, I just feel like just working in the hospitality industry, having multiple restaurants and knowing everybody and having friends that actually are servers and bartenders, I know that they appreciate the tips and everything that we give. So I try to do at least 20%. If it's exceptional service, I'll tip a little bit more than that for sure. But I know like the standard here in Vegas is the 20% at least. So I always try to do that. Like just growing up, my dad taught me that the more that you give in life, the more you receive. So I always keep that in mind as well. So.
I'm about the same with you. I do 20% depending on, I guess, like the price of the food. But me, my friends, my mom, she's been a server my whole life. So I've always been a big tipping person. I've been a bartender for over 10 years. So I pretty much lived off tips for over 10 years. So anytime I go out, especially if it's free food, I'm definitely tipping at least 20, 30%. If it's like, maybe doesn't make sense, like 20% would only be $20, but I felt like they gave me really, really good service. Me and my friends will put money together and make sure we give them like $50, $60, $70 or something like that.
That's awesome.
Okay. You want to go? Do you want to mention something?
20% is definitely the standard in Vegas, and I think that seemed to be shocking for a lot of people in my DMs when I talked about tipping on my IG stories. I think the rest of the country is still 15.
Yeah, I was about to say 15, 18.
18.
Yeah, and if it's a Waffle House in West Virginia, maybe like 8%.
West Virginia. Shout out to West Virginia.
I'm just picking a random place.
I get it.
Yeah.
for me, it kind of goes back to when I started. I don't go by percentages. I think you know how I throw it down.
I learned a lot from you on tipping.
Yeah, like, dude, our accountant calls me all the time, and they go, "Did you mean to tip 20,000% of your Because they charge me a penny, I tip 200." Okay, so when I first started, it was like over a decade ago, and I was still shooting food full time. When some chefs would even yell at you for having a light in their restaurant, it was this whole influencer thing was not widely accepted. So in some cases, I would go in, and it was all request only, right? I'm not the guy that ever like reaches out to a client or reached out to a restaurant saying, "Hey, I'm this person. I want to come shoot." Till this day, I've never done that. It's always been an invite. It's an incoming lead, and I go there, and I feel like sometimes in those scenarios, there's many times that I felt like they're kind of looking down at me, just an influencer. I've gotten a lot of that kind of like, I guess one owner out of that entire operation wants this, but everybody else didn't.
Yeah.
And I can feel it. So in the beginning, it was like my kind of like a move of letting the people know I'm not here for free food. Like I didn't want to be considered as like this guy that is like trying to get a free dish out of a restaurant. Mm-hmm. So I would leave like $100 tip, right. Even if it's a coffee shop, and I still do that. I believe that the true ROI that I've gotten from my act of kindness, just doing the above and beyond the 20%, has gotten me far in this business. And
the more you give, the more you get.
And the relationships. 100%. And at the end of the day, like I didn't start because of this, but as I go, you get to find out, well, the servers are not making anything out of this whole deal, right? The business is getting a huge deal out of it.
And they're still taking
what do they get? And they're serving me like crazy, and they always are nice to you and stuff like that. Of course, if I actually got the sometimes you arrive and they don't even know who you are, and they, as soon as they don't know who you are and what this is all about, immediately I feel like I'm here for free food. Like I feel like I'm like trying to take advantage of them or something like that. So I guess I kind of like my personal ego thing where but now I truly believe that there's nothing that the servers are getting out of this. And I usually dirty up like 3 tables sometimes. Like I have my stuff over here, but I have my shooting table over here and another table is dirty over there. And, our agency sometimes rolled 7 to 8 people deep. I believe like our first shoot at Lotus Red Rock was like 8 people deep, and that's like taking over 4 tables, and everybody's shooting their own thing. And what do these servers get? So I'm kind of extreme in tipping. I'm above $100 sometimes. I'm kind of trimming that now because now I'm getting to a point where the owners are going, that's a little too extreme. Like there's been times where the owners tell me that you're leaving too much.
Ooh. Maybe the servers don't want to hear that.
So what I started doing? I learned from Brandon, the real estate Brandon.
Brandon from Vegas, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where whenever they say that, I try to take care of somebody's bill and then tip a regular, like a doable amount on top of that.
That's good.
So like, depends on the place. If it's like fucking Nico Steakhouse, probably not. But as long as it's reasonable, it's good to like take care of a bill. They love it. I just say that I'm paying forward, and I just tip on top of that. I'm sorry, I'm long-winded, but I have a big passion about this whole tip thing. And in the middle of that, I used to tell people, well, I kind of want to stand out from all the other guys that doesn't do this.
Right.
And I want to be remembered and stuff like that. There's a lot of benefits to
This
that.
is why so many servers hug Paul.
I'll tell you this.
I thought they were just friends with him.
100% of our clients, food and beverage clients, because we do a lot of other industries now that you don't need to tip, but 100% of our food and beverage clients, I believe when we mob in, they love us because they know that they're going to get good tip out of it, and they help us a little bit more. I see that visibly.
So as social media managers, on the flip side of things, when you tell the staff that an influencer is coming in, or specifically to shoot, what is the general feeling from the staff? Is it great, or is it fuck me, or? What do you
I
think?
think it depends, like for my restaurants in particular, because I have Cantina Tequila and it's a newer restaurant and we're always busy, especially on the weekends. So I try not to schedule influencers on the weekends just because I know how busy it tends to be. So it depends on the staff. They're always really excited. They're like, who is it? Who is it? I remember Brandon from Vegas actually went in with his fiance at the time. They're married now. But they went in just because I'm actually friends with his fiance. She used to do my lashes for a really long time.
Oh, wow.
And so she texted me for reservation and I didn't even tell the staff that Brandon was coming in because it wasn't like a collab or anything. He just went in and everybody like fangirled. They were so excited. Like, did you know Brandon from Vegas is coming in? And I was like, oh yeah, he's one of my friends. And it was so funny. And they were just like so excited to see him, which is really nice. But they all get really excited depending on, and like they really like to see who it is that's coming in, especially when you came in that one time. They were like, yeah, it's Las Vegas Bill. I was like, I know. It's so funny because they're all like big foodies. Like everyone that works in the restaurant industry, they already know. So they get really excited. I don't think anyone's ever had like a negative thing to say about influencers that come in just because like our group of friends, our group of influencer friends, we all know to tip, you know, like it's just the culture that we have here. What about you?
Yeah, so I do daiquiri bar. That's probably the most I've interacted with, like having influencers come and they're like really, really giant drinks, but they're grab and go. But 9 times out of 10, either I'll ask the person whether like I know the content creator or not, and I'm just like, hey, just bring like $10 or something like that. And I'll always tip out of my own. Like, so if I invite somebody and I'm like, okay, you're gonna do a restaurant review on my restaurant, then 9 times out of 10, I'll probably try to tip on my own, or I'll suggest to them like, hey, let me know if you can tip. If they don't, if they say no, they're not going to, I'll just go do it on my own, even if I bring friends. Like, and I just need a content day. I'm not gonna let that bartender make 400-ounce daiquiris with all this free liquor and just be like, bye girl. Like, I'll try to at least like make sure we give them some kind of something for their buck, or I'll do it because I worked as a bartender there. So instead of having them worry about tipping somebody and doing all of this stuff for free, I'll make the drink and I'll be the one in the person's video, and they usually like it because we'll get a bunch of people to come in. So then they'll get a lot of kickback on clients. So we go really viral for the daiquiri bars.
Oh, yeah. I've
So
seen
they're
the
always
videos.
happy
They're so
whenever
good.
whenever they see me. They're like, oh, we have an idea. Like, let's do another video. And I'm like, okay,
I love that.
that works.
That's awesome. But a lot of times for a lot of restaurants, all it takes is one bad experience with an influencer to kind of
Ruin it all.
turn them off to it. You hear a lot of stories like, oh, I invited this one person. It took them 3 months to post and it didn't do shit. Or yeah, and they come
were
in
rude.
there. Oh, they're rude.
I was like, I hear that sometimes too.
Or they over order, you know?
Oh, yeah, I don't like doing that
thing.
either.
It's like,
I always feel bad. I'm like,
there's
oh,
like
this is
unnecessary amounts of food at a sushi place. I've seen this.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand, but you're there for one post.
Yeah, there's no reason to get the whole menu.
You don't need to get the entire menu, but I've seen that too. But who am I to say like how influencers conduct business? So talking.
I think you are a person.
No,
to say
like,
that.
but that's how they it's their own business and that's their own thing. And I would like to be this, unified police of, governing this whole thing. But that's a whole another topic. As an agency, and because I don't want that drama, our agency always I don't think there's ever been a event that our company's thrown where we expected anybody to tip. Our agency takes care of the tip 100% of the time. And dude, these tips are no joke. You go to, a good example is the Lotus Party Brunch. Those are bottle services.
So $400 a bottle or whatever it is, right?
My tips are $500-$600.
Yeah.
And a lot of people suggest, but I just don't expect. I don't expect. If I were to just expect everybody to take care of the whole bill, there might be some discrepancy in the future where I have to tell the client what happened. That has happened before. Hey, it wasn't enough tip. I've even heard that. So our agency takes care of it. But I just don't want that whole drama of hey, you didn't leave a tip, and we'll just take care of that and be done with it.
So the flip side, an influencer that says they're not going to tip, I'm guessing in their brain they're thinking, I'm doing them the favor for being there.
100%.
They'll get a bunch of business later. I mean, you would say that's the closest thing to reality, right?
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, especially if you're not making any money off of it and you're, going to build your profile. And now I have this restaurant reach out to me multiple times. I go to eat and then now I spent, $200 on it. It's free, but the server didn't make any money off of it. Do I tip? because technically I didn't get paid for this collaboration. The food was the payment. So now I would come out of pocket. I would end up paying the restaurant and still going home to do work on the restaurant. That's the only thing. I mean, I'm a server, so I'll always tip, but I understand some perspectives on it. But I also think that, like, depending on the tab, depending on where you go, like if I'm gonna go to like Shang Artisan Noodle, okay, I get it. Like I'm spending $20 probably. They're probably not, living off of that. But if I go to Mastro's and someone takes care of me and I'm getting free drinks, steak, and all of that stuff, then yes, I do. I feel like I heavily owe them a tip just because I also got $400 worth of free food and liquor for free.
Right.
Like they deserve something. They served me probably better than everybody else in the restaurant. That's my take on it.
I feel like, though, still, even if you say that, yeah, they're going to get the benefit out of it. You're the influencers. You're invited. But there's that one person that is getting fucked, which is the server, right? Like, what does a server have anything to do with any of that?
Because
even if the restaurant starts blowing up, maybe indirectly in the future that server will earn more tip because there's more. I just, you know what I mean?
What about the table and the work that they did then?
Yeah,
the restaurant sure doesn't think that way, and server doesn't think that way.
And also,
all they know is that this guy came, ordered $500 worth of food for free, and then didn't tip me at all. That's what you get.
And I'm running all these plates back and forth, getting them whatever they want, getting them drinks, and I didn't get anything out of that.
And you only get a certain amount of tables per shift. So if I work from 4 to 10, I only get 5 tables.
Right.
So if you take up my table for 3 hours, that's one table I can't make tips off of the entire time you're there. Not only that, everybody around me is watching me serve you to the T. I'm bringing your drinks, I'm bringing your food, I'm doing all of this. So other people now are looking at me like, okay, I'm putting in so much work on your table, but your table is the only one I'm not gonna get a tip on. Like that's, and I think that sometimes the restaurant should be responsible as well.
Good point.
Or should a server not be at that table?
I think a manager should serve them if you really...
They have the time.
Yeah, sometimes, if you have the time. But there are times where, a manager will serve you, but take that into consideration because if I have to tip out on a tab, it's still going to be on my name. And say I made $5,000 in sales that day, but your table was the $1,000. I owe money on your tab. So if you don't give me any money, if you don't pay me any money, now I owe extra to the bartender, to the busser, even taxes at the end of the year off of that tab.
Okay. I'm not really aware of what happens at the end of the night after you get the tip. So, for example, if you could kind of walk me through it. Say you make $500 in a night. Mm-hmm. So how is that tip distributed at the end?
Everybody shares?
No. Well, some people do pool. Where everybody in the restaurant, all the servers, they'll make
establishment. Some of them just pool, like they have the one that's like the bartenders. They pool one together tip pool, and then like the servers, and then they have their own pool that's like also split with like the hostesses and stuff. So it depends on the establishment and how they decide to set everything up. But yeah, typically there are pools involved.
Yeah, sometimes there's pools. But then sometimes you're just working for yourself. So say there's 5 servers that night, we all get a certain amount of tables. Whatever I make, I take home. But there's
really? Well, that's good.
What's the percentage of pool versus independent?
Everybody just shares it. So like, and that's kind of where credit cards versus cash tips kind of come into play.
Sure.
Where say all the dealers, they pool.
Yeah.
So they share all their money. How much money they make probably offends them. Say if I have a regular who comes in and he's making $100,000 in gaming and he's tipping me $5,000 every time, I still have to split that with everybody else who worked. But some restaurants, whatever you make, you take home, but you still owe money to the people who helped you.
Wow. So, I ask every single restaurant how they share the tip because I want to know where this is going. If I drop $100, $200, I just want to know where. So I ask. Usually it's a pool. Usually they say everybody shares. So because sometimes I want to tip the chef because I shoot with the chefs a lot, and I ask, hey, if I tip you this, does your chef get anything? And sometimes they say yes, sometimes they don't. So I tip separately. Like a lot of times people say, well, the servers share, but the bar doesn't. Bar's separate.
Right.
So if like it just happened at wherever this event was, we had like a bunch of people there, and they were saying that I don't want to say the name because there's a discrepancy there, but there's servers and bartenders. So I tip a big amount for the servers, and then I had to tip the extra too or something like that to the bartender.
bartender?
And I just want to make sure because the bartenders were giving us so many drinks, and I was thinking about this. I don't want to discredit the people that says, well, they invited me. Why do I have to pay anything? It makes sense. A good solution of that is who's asking who out on a date is a good question. Like, did the restaurant ask you to come or did you want to go there? If you're like asking the restaurant that you want to go there and they say yes, you should definitely tip. That's like that person. If you don't tip, you're a dick. You know what I mean?
100%,
But
100%.
sometimes it's like these PR or marketing companies that's not even the restaurant that invites you in. And I believe that a healthy conversation would be, well, if I go, are you, because you're the agency that's inviting me, right? And those marketing agency that represents a restaurant should take care of that. You know, and so if you're one of those people that's gung-ho about not paying a tip because you're getting paid for this and this is a job for you, then whoever asked you to come in, you should always ask, can you take care of the gratuity? Because, you know, there's parking involved in this. There's a strip, you know, there's $25 parking for a strip. All that has to be counted in. And I completely understand that math. But if you're the one that's asking to go there, you're fucked. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of marketing companies that doesn't take care of the tip, though.
No.
So I don't want to say like PR or not. It's just like if it's not my agency, there's an agency between me and the restaurant.
Right.
That agency should be somewhat responsible for some of this.
So I brought up Xpot earlier because Xpot now, if they reach out to you, they'll ask you. Yeah, they'll ask you to, hey, it's 5-course menu. It's going to be $200, $300, but everything's taken care of. But we're going to ask that you pay 18% gratuity. And I feel like, all right, that's leaving it up to me to decide whether I want to go and have that experience and be willing to pay that tip, or as the content creator decide, no, it's not worth my time.
Correct.
And I kind of like that.
At least they're
aspect.
upfront.
Yeah, they're
You know what I mean?
upfront.
It's not
and
just like a guess game.
Expectation for sure.
And that's a 5-course meal, like same thing with partage. Like I will, don't come in here expecting for.
Phil will take care of that.
Yeah, they'll take care of that. But things like that where somebody
Well,
is.
it's a high ticket item. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when it's fine dining like that, you're just kind of like,
Yeah, I don't think that
who's
you
gonna
should
pay
expect
this
that for
$100
free,
bill,
even if you were
you know?
invited. Like,
Absolutely.
but yeah, so the Phils and Jump Force, you guys, every time I do go to an event with you guys will always say you'll take care of the tab. But I'll still I think, what was the one at Horseshoe? The Speakeasy?
The cabinet and lock.
Yeah, and I love
client
the
of ours.
bartender. He was so great. He was making everything, and even though Julie told me that you guys Jules told me you guys had already tipped, I still tipped him.
See, that's love.
So I was just like, I don't know, I
That's
just want
love.
to, just out of my own thing. I feel like as a bartender, you can never make enough money. Like you can always take extra tips. So to me, that's it.
Are these guys making a lot of money on tips where we don't have to worry about it, or are these people struggling? Because I would say
It's hit or
most
miss.
are struggling, right? They're
I would
tip
assume if you're on the strip, you're making a reasonable living. No?
I feel like because you have
I don't
your slow months. So right now, no one's making any money.
Yeah,
so if you
Wednesdays.
didn't save your money from
Weekdays.
summer,
Right.
you're making absolutely
months.
no money right now. It doesn't pick back up until almost March. Luckily, we have F1 and Super Bowl coming up, so that helps us. But
See, that's good
in
insight.
between the
you know what I mean?
day.
Yeah,
Because
you have-
a lot of people think that these people are rolling in dough,
No, and that's why they
making
have
tips.
multiple jobs.
Yeah.
We have bartenders that work 2 other jobs, and then
True.
also servers that work more than just one serving job to make up for the fact that they don't make something, in one day. They're like, okay, well, it's okay. Hopefully, the job that I work tonight is going to cover for what I didn't make earlier in the day. Because day to day, usually most people don't go out to eat for lunch. But there's still restaurants that are open for lunch, and so they don't make a lot during the day. So they just kind of hope that their night shift they're going to make a decent amount of money.
Shit.
Yeah.
And Nevada is one of the few states, one of only 7 states that pays a minimum wage,
yeah.
which is
11 something, I think, still.
it's
It's
11.
Yeah, it's
below
11
12
now.
still.
It's 11.
yeah, plus
Which is-
tips.
Plus tips.
Yeah, where everyone else in the country is still making $2 an hour plus.
Yeah,
tips.
Wait, so
Virginia.
some of these
I was
bartenders
making
still make
2
something an hour plus tips. These
There's
bartenders on
some
the
bartenders
strip.
who are making $20 an hour.
Oh yeah, well that's
Some of them,
Those are
depending
great.
on-
That's
yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, for the average, yeah, you're paying what? I think last July, I think it's every July they change it and it goes up $1 and they'll give us a notice. But what does that really do for us? Because inflation went up, the price of the drinks went up, my rent went up. So that $1 didn't actually do anything for my income.
Right.
So it really just depends on whether I get tipped or not.
I don't want to misquote the quote though. I think it is 11 something, but maybe it's like 12
11.50.
something. I'm not really sure.
50.
$11.50.
It's $11.50.
Okay. Interesting. And then there's also exorbitant tipping that exists only in Vegas, whether it's at the pool for bottle service or the nightclub, where the standard now is what, 22% gratuity on a check? Like the autograt.
Yeah.
Wait.
Gratuity.
What is this?
Like from like
Oh,
if you
for,
go to
like,
Omnia.
service. Yeah.
Oh, like mandatory?
Yeah, or
it's on your
Republic.
bill already?
It's on the
Yeah,
bill
Oh.
already.
Yeah,
Is it 22
it depends.
now?
Like some restaurants have it. Like I think Cleaver. I think it's a party of 6 or 8.
Yeah.
Anything above that, they autograt, and we do that at Cantina as well. It's anything 8 and above, we autograt just to make sure that our servers are taken care of. Because there have been, instances where there's huge parties, multiple tables, the servers working their butt off, and they don't get anything.
Anything?
Anything. There's been times where they literally will get like nothing. They'll get like maybe $5. Like one person from the group
That's
will leave a
insane.
5 on the table.
It's funny because I think people
Locals.
that the more money they spend, they automatically assume it's going to the server. Like, oh, I spent $10,000 on this bottle and this, everything at this table. Like, obviously, you should be taken care of. When no, that
like
that was
that's
your minimum.
separate. Right.
That was your minimum spend. I get
Wait,
nothing.
I understand 8+, but we're talking about just for any bill now. Like, I believe there's venues that are literally just tacking on 20 whatever
But they're not
on
calling
top
it tipping.
of
They're calling
any.
it some kind of service
Yeah,
charge or
service.
something.
Right. Castellan does that right now. They have an auto gratuity, but it says it goes towards their insurance and all this stuff. So you can still tip on top of that 20.
They expect you to tip on top of
Well,
that.
it says it's not required, but would be appreciated. That was,
Like all room
But do
service
we know if that's
has-
going to the server or is the restaurant taking, what they're charging?
No one
on
knows
it?
that. They don't
Yeah,
explain
no
that
one.
to
I
you
think the
ever.
servers see that on the menu though. So
Yeah.
I mean, they got to be behind it, I assume.
Well, if that doesn't go to the server,
That's
that is
like
fucked up.
that's rough because there
know
are
what I
some.
mean?
We have extra tax at Daiquiri Bar has an extra tax for some reason, just being on the strip, and we get. People argue with us so much about.
really?
Yeah,
Like,
like
what's the fee?
What
why?
is it?
Where
Like,
is
is
this?
it
It's not
5%?
much. It's probably like 2 or 3%. It's not like a enormous amount, but to some people it really matters. Like why'd you charge me an extra $2 in tax when you already charged me another whatever in tax?
Right.
But that goes up. So some tabs will be $300, and now that extra
2%.
Yeah, that 2% went up, and you're looking at me like that's your tip.
And it's
Like, why
no,
am I
it's
being
not.
charged
I
an
actually
extra
don't get
tax
that.
for?
Well, then the servers are getting screwed again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the end
Because
of
the strip
day,
charges a separate tax.
Right.
You just got to look at it.
Is there more and more places like Hassalan that does that? Every check
That's
comes
the
out with
first time I've ever seen it.
Well, I hear it. I hear about it, and I'll tell you my stance on that. You would probably get way more
If you didn't.
If you didn't do that, because you're fucking yourself. Like, dude, I kind of see that as like this a relatable thing where when you're a kid, your room is fucked up, and you're about to clean your room, and your mom comes in and just say, clean your room, and you don't want to fucking clean anymore. Yeah. It's like if you fucking mandatory put 20% on it, I would have done 25, but now I
Yeah.
don't really like that.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Tips should be something of a generous thing that I get to decide.
Yeah.
Depends on the service, depends on a lot of situations.
I think it depends on location too.
Yeah.
Like I used to work at a restaurant in DC, and we would do above 6, and it's up to me. Like if I see a table of 6, I can decide whether I want to do autograt or not autograt. And
Oh,
sometimes
wow.
you'll end
That's
up
good.
shooting yourself in the foot by not
Right.
doing it.
Sure.
So
That's
you gotta
gambling.
kind of like
Yeah,
assess.
yeah. You gotta
You
have
gotta
to.
get the vibe. Check the
Yeah,
vibe.
like,
Do we want to get into that?
30% person or 15% person?
like, did you
Are
order
they
5
generous?
rounds of water, or did you order 5 rounds of drinks? Like, let me know.
Feeling good after the drinks.
But you'll shoot yourself in the foot. I found that the times I got tipped the least was when it was lunch rush. So a bunch of business people will come in, they're looking for a quick lunch, in and out, and I don't autograt them, right? Because it's 6 business people, I should expect that you at least would give me 18%, $5. And it'd be $1, $2, $3. And I'm like, whoa. And then I'll look at somebody else and I'll be like, okay, let me autograt them because they're a bunch of 30-year-olds and I don't know if I'm gonna get tip, and then they'll tip me extra on top of that. So you really
So
can't.
You never know. Like even when we do the autograt at Cantina, sometimes people love the service so much that they also tip on top of that. And our servers will tell them like, oh, we have autograt brat,
Like, yeah.
and then they'll be like, that's fine. You guys are amazing. We're coming back. We love this place. You guys are awesome. So it depends on the person. You can't, like, not everyone is generous. Like you would hope so, which is why we put the autograt into place.
Yeah.
But I get your standpoint. Like, I feel like it should be.
It's,
I mean, I bet you
tricky.
at the end of the day, the venue's going to make out more by just doing the autograph because there's not going to be people like on my side versus the person that only tips
It's a small
2%. There's
percentage.
going to be a lot more people are tipping less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I bet you at the end of the day, the average works out to be much better for the venue than just trying a bunch of me's going in there, right? But wow, that's interesting. Can I ask this? Like, because you're on this, what demographics tip high and what demographics tip low?
We're
Like,
profiling here.
no, like
I mean,
What is
okay.
what is a
stereotypical.
30%? What does a
Let's
30% profile
Let's
look like?
make sure that there's no TikTok clicks that are going to click it. No clips.
part is I feel like
no,
I-
Talk
no
about
no,
what would you
like,
profile as the best
who doesn't
tipper?
tip and who tips? But, like if you were has an
I feel like I
ideal
get
high tipping
profiled.
man or high tipping girl.
I'm
Without
100%
profiling.
positive. I get profiled because of my skin color, and people automatically assume I won't tip. And that kind of sucks because I'll see them give somebody next to me great service and then kind of act like I'm just interrupting their day. And that sucks because it's just like, I get it. As a server, I get it. I know what kind of people come in and who don't tip. So if I come in and I got 3 girls with me and we all look a certain type of way or we're all a certain skin tone, then they're 9 times out of 10 thinking, oh, they're not even going to tip us, so why even bother? And that sucks because I'm a server. You didn't even like
Know
let
that,
it.
right.
Yeah, you didn't even know that. But Europeans don't tip. Like a lot of
100% don't, 'cause that's
Yeah.
their culture.
foreign countries.
yeah, foreign people don't tip. They're not used to that.
Asians
That's their
don't tip,
culture.
dog, right?
That was the
Asians-
initial idea,
Is that-
right?
I
The
thought-
biggest to me.
Oh,
Right, but
really?
that's changed.
Well,
yeah.
see?
Yeah. So through my DMs,
She was going to say Asians.
I know. through my DMs, people are bitching about Canadians, Argentinians, and Brazilians.
Don't?
Would be the top 3 that don't tip.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
they're saying when they see a table full of Argentinians, they're fucked.
Argentinian, okay.
Yeah.
Because they don't
Weird.
tip in their country.
Yeah, they
I'm
don't tip
thinking,
in their
right?
country.
That's
They
their
don't
culture.
Yeah.
Mine is like Europeans. Europeans usually don't tip. No offense, Indians don't tip. Like they're just not used to that culture. And I used to work downtown Fremont, and it would be the worst. You would have like groups and groups of people come in and $0, and we didn't get to autograph there. So it's like you're serving 20 people and they give you $0, and it's
Wow.
they're not used
$0?
to tipping. $0. You literally sometimes they'll give you change because they don't want to take their
Right,
change
whatever's
home.
in their pocket. they're like,
Yeah, they're
So
like,
then-
here's all my quarters and pennies I can't take
that
to the other
line
country.
that is underneath a subtotal, they just like what crossed it out
Oh
or something?
yeah.
They just, or put 0. They literally will mark 0.
Put 0 on
In
it?
front of your
Oh,
face,
that's
and I don't
crazy.
give a crap.
That's gnarly.
Thank you.
You know, something about that profiling. I always feel like the chicken or the eggs. That person that said you walk up with the 3 of her friends and because my skin color. Maybe that person is getting a lot less tip from those people because they do that, right? How do you know what's
Yeah.
first? Like,
So it's the
you know what I mean? Like,
assumption.
like,
Chicken or the egg, for
because
sure.
at the end of the day, I didn't know that you were gonna say like, you know, your same skin is like profiled as a low. I didn't know that. Maybe it's their fault for
making the
thinking
assumption.
that.
Yeah, for making the
and-
assumption.
and making it, and they give you less service, and that's obvious. So you tip less, and you know what I mean?
Right.
Because I don't have that. Like I'll have the issue, but it's to me it's almost every race or different kinds of people. You know who will do it. It's hit or miss. It's never going to be that way. But sometimes, yeah, my biggest tippers will be somebody at my skin tone, and maybe I resonated with them a little bit more. I gave them better service, or you know who knows as to why, you know, they did it. But I'll never profile based off of skin tone. I think maybe where you're from, because at least I know that it's not common in Europe. Like I know it's not common overseas. So therefore you come here and I'm asking you for a tip. You're looking at me like, what are you talking about? Because I went to Cuba once and they were getting mad at us for tipping. They're like, stop tipping. You're doing too much. You're spending too, like, basically, like, these people, you give them, like, a few dollars, and that's good enough for, like, the whole day. But we're over here trying to give them, like, $10, $20.
Someone to give $20,
And I'm just like, we just got one meal. Like, what's $20 to them? And they were like, stop. Like, they're going to start hounding you guys if you guys don't relax. Like, you can't do that where you're, like, you know, other places don't promote you tip too much. Like, you're just giving away money at that point.
That's interesting.
Interesting. I think with Hassalan, maybe it goes to the profile of the European visitor who would eat there. Maybe that's why they do it.
Oh,
Yeah,
they kind
Because
of
they
force it
mandatory,
because
because
they
they
make
know
money.
that
they're going to get fucked out of that deal.
Yeah, maybe.
Not just I don't want to keep saying the word hostile. I'm hearing a lot of more
becoming a
venues are,
standard, for sure.
it's becoming a thing where they just tack on the gratuity. Also, I don't know if you guys know this, and I get approached a lot because we have a lot of F&B clients that are low ticket items. If you were selling cars and stuff like this, doesn't work. But there's a lot of merchant guys now. There's a lot of merchant people. You know, like your POS. There used to not be all of these salesmen that are trying to get your merchant business, but now all of a sudden it's like an influencer kind of. There's like
it's
a
a
bunch of
huge
people trying to,
saturation,
So if you
yeah.
ever go up to your restaurant client and even say POS or merchant, they're like, it's like every week somebody comes in, and the thing that they're trying to sell is pushing the credit card fee over to the client. That's the new thing now. So what they do is there's a question that says, are you willing to pay the credit card fee or credit card thing or usage charge or something like that? If you pay cash, so their defense is, oh, you don't want to pay? You can pay cash. But nobody fucking pays cash these days, right? So what they do is they put, yes, the whatever 3-4% that they're charging as merchant fee is getting paid by the customer, right? So that's another 3 or 4%, right? And maybe there's an auto grad on top of that, so that's another 22 or whatever. Now you're paying 25, 26, and then I get to see the others, and like that doesn't make any sense. You're getting fucked on that deal, you know. So I see both sides trying to climb, you know what I mean? And
I do think there
I
are.
wouldn't really like be hating a person just because they're like not for this and they don't want to tip anymore because they're just sick of these fees that are auto. You know, I'm not. It's not me, but I can see their point.
Yeah, Julie Kim brought up tipping fatigue, which I didn't even know was a thing.
It's like I'm just tired of taking.
Yeah, they're just done with it. But what has it been like for tipping culture in Vegas post-COVID? Has it been better or worse?
First year when everybody was getting their checks, it was great. Like 2020, after the pandemic ended and everybody was still getting their money, it was great. But I think we've done worse sales-wise at the bars and the restaurants.
Across the board.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, income-wise, like even summer wasn't busy. And usually you can bank on making money between May and September. And we were doing less sales during those months than we were in the winter months. And winter's already bad.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
With all the numbers for tourism being up and all this stuff, is it just because there's too many choices for?
I think there's that too. There's a lot of saturation.
There's so many
and
new places
so many
that are opening up and so many new things to go check out. I think that's also contributing to it as well.
Phil doesn't notice that because all of their venues are just crushing it and they're not jumping any numbers.
Oh, that's
No, I'm just
interesting.
kidding.
opening multiple locations.
But that is a talk. That is a talk
location.
across the board for a lot of our clients because they're always comparing numbers the wrong way. I feel like they're comparing numbers to right after pandemic where everybody's getting free money and when sales went up like this. And now this year sales are lower than that year. So they compare to last November. And I think that's a bad metrics to go by. But what I do notice is that there's across the board, sales are going down. And I see these tactics being, I don't know, reasonable. I don't know.
I also think that a lot of people who are not in service industry are now asking for tips, and that's making it kind of seem like everybody has their hand out. Like I'll go to a gas station and somehow they have a tip jar.
Get
And
true.
I'm
True that.
very,
Yeah,
I'm
you're
very
right. There's
confused by
you're
that.
right.
And I'm just like, almost everywhere I go now, it's
Every
like
fast
somebody's
casual place has a
asking
tip
for
line
a
now.
tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like you go to Rubio's or something. I don't know if Rubio's. It's just
Does McDonald's do tips?
No, because they give it to their little St. Jude's.
Okay.
Like your tip
Yeah.
little thing in the front. But yeah, just the normal gas station. I was looking at it one day and I'm like, what am I tipping? No offense. Like if you filled up my tank, great. Like I understand. But why would I go in, go out, and then just leave $1 in there?
That is true. What do you think about that? What do you think about self-serve places? Because they still have that line.
Like
They
even
still have the
ordering
tip
to
line.
go and how they
Yeah,
swivel
to
a
go.
little
Do you
machine
tip on?
over.
That's
You
a
gotta
good
push the
question.
button.
Do you tip on to go? I always do because if there's a
person
line
did
on
it
it,
for
I
me,
just tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tip to go. Probably 15%.
Yeah. I usually tip to go.
I do too. But
if I go to Shake
Should
Shack
we?
and fill out the
If
form
I
on my
do it
Should we?
own,
or if I
probably
call
not.
in and order, if I do it online and I'm literally just going to grab the bag from you, I feel less inclined to tip. Like it depends. But if I'm ordering from that person, they're putting in the order for me and they're actually like
They
talking
show
to
you,
me.
make sure that your food is
like,
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like then it makes sense to tip for me anyway.
And it's not like we're saying you need to tip 18% on a to-go order.
Just
I'd
a
probably
little
do like,
something.
yeah.
Just break them out a little something.
So that's interesting because in Vegas, obviously, tips go way beyond restaurants. Like, what about hotel housekeeping?
oh yeah,
Should
I
always
always
tip.
tip.
Okay.
Yeah.
because I, you know,
Yeah, they don't make any
I learned
extra
this
money, and who knows what you did to that room.
I learned that not a lot of people do that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah, a lot
'Cause
of people
I posted
are
on my
doing that.
stories once that I left like a 20 on the pillow and I just like wrote a thank you because you know how they have those little notepads on the little side table. I put thank you. I hope you have a great day. And I'll just leave like a $20 bill and people are like, you do that? I was like, yeah. Isn't that like standard? Like, don't you do that? They're like, no. I'm like, why?
Yeah, a lot of people are saying they don't, and they were telling me that you got to tip every single day at a hotel
because they
of different
changed
staff.
the
But
maids
that's only if
changed.
they do it because they have hotels where you put like, no, I don't need new towels or no, I
Yeah.
don't
Right.
need new sheets. And I'm like,
Or
one
the
of those-
person will
yeah.
leave a note. Like I feel like I've had like somebody leave like, oh, somebody serviced you today. Like Gloria serviced, you know, the room today or something like that. I'm okay, great. Like if I see somebody
Thanks,
else's name, then
Gloria.
I'll like
Right.
keep them separate. And that's probably just based off of my mom because she works at a hotel. So she's
Right.
worked at a hotel forever. So she's always like, we can't leave without tipping them. She's like, they're not going to bring us towels. They're not going to care about us. And I was like, they will, but it's still nice to just scratch their back. Yeah.
The
Like
more
you
get, the more
ask.
you get.
They come in, they clean up your dirty towel. Like, you know, they'll clean up the bathroom. They'll make your bed for you. I feel like you could give them something.
But it definitely sounds like a lot of people don't. I actually got a DM from a professional football player that lives here in town. Had no idea that tipping
And he
housekeeping was a
travels
thing.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, stays at like Four Seasons and all that stuff all the time.
But he probably gets it taken care of, and somebody else
For
probably.
me, I feel like these housekeeping crew touches a lot of my big ticket item personal stuff when they're in there, and I just do it to protect that. Like, dude, there's a lot of things in my room that,
Yeah, it's very personal.
you know, like I don't know what type of housekeeping crew I'm gonna get. I just want to make sure that I bribe them to make sure they don't fuck with any of my shit. You know what I mean? Like that's like my stand. I'm like, I'm more serious about this than I don't care about them. This is like for me. You know, like protect myself.
Protect me. Yeah.
They're gonna take the 20 and your shit.
Yeah, you know, like, I'm like, yo,
Some people
my
don't realize
underwears
that
are in
too.
here.
You
You
can
know
go
what I
to
mean?
a
Here's $20.
resort.
Like,
You could go to a resort and we're all, you know, maybe paying the same thing, but for some reason that, you know, the housekeeper is in your room. She's making sure you have all the towels. Yeah, because I tipped her the day before. And then everybody else is like, oh, I can't get anybody to answer me.
Well,
in hotels though, I kind of like tipping the housekeeping like myself, not like leave it in a
yeah.
room. I see the lady and go, yes, here's, you know what I mean?
That's a good way to
see
go.
you.
I need towels later.
You know me.
That's my shit. Don't take it. Don't touch
My
it.
laptops are in there. You know, like,
I was at Grand Sierra in Reno, and when you check in the front desk, they tell you they're gonna take a certain amount off your credit card for gratuity for the housekeeping.
whoa.
It's an auto
See, that's
gratifier.
another auto
$5
thing
a
that I
day.
don't know if I really agree with that, but they would get more than $5 a day anyway if they would just left that alone. That's another.
Maybe not for everyone.
But from you, but
from
probably
you,
not the
but-
majority.
Like people don't know. A lot of people don't tip.
No, a lot of people don't tip.
I went to the spa at Resorts World, and the person giving me the tour of the spa, like I wasn't wearing. Should I tip them? like I don't. There's some gray area.
Some
like, what do
people
you tip
make
for?
more money. You get what I'm saying? Like the host makes enough money where she doesn't need a tip, but the server doesn't. So you don't have to tip the host, but the host gets a lot of money because
have a
you,
lot
if you want a
of
better
hourly.
table, if you want certain things, you want to get sat faster, great. Like you can tip the host, but the host will make $25 an hour and the server will make 10.
Interesting.
They should have this at the front of the restaurant.
The breakdown.
All the
This
money's
is
are
how
going.
much
I'm
the
like,
host is
that's so I
paid.
can like correctly tip.
I have a friend who makes way more than us just being a host, but it's because she's in a fine dining restaurant and people
depends on the
want to
establishment,
sit
for
next
sure.
to the fountain. She works at Bellagio.
They're like, can I slip you a 20?
Here's 120. She wouldn't even accept that. Here's 100.
100 minimum
Yeah.
to get a premium
To
seat.
get
To be
to
taught
sit,
of,
yeah,
sit
to
over there.
sit by the fountain, or and people have the money, so you can
They're going to
outbid.
that restaurant for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then there's places like the Eiffel Tower, which allow you to pay extra
Oh, yeah,
unopened
to-
table
to sit at the
to
open
sit at,
table.
but doesn't that screw over the whole staff?
No.
No, for tips?
No, I don't think
Okay.
so. I think it's just more like you're securing the table that you want, right? Like I think some restaurants in Bellagio are starting to make the patio a minimum. Like you have to spend a minimum amount to be out there, and it takes longer for you to get that reservation because everybody obviously wants to sit on the patio. They want to sit, where you can see the fountain. So yeah, you have to either charge more or tell them like you have to spend at least $200 to sit there. And
Minimum.
Yeah.
And be minimum.
And it's like, if you want to do that, okay, great. But also now your tab is higher, which means your gratuity percentage
better
should
be
be
more.
higher. Yeah.
One thing for sure, like you can ask my wife Mindy about this, is that if you are a good tipper, I think the level of service that you do get, especially if they're used to not getting it.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember the city, but I always kind of like budget another $100 and then I give it into like tens, and I just kind of like it's usually these people, the person that's checking me in, I always get an upgrade. Like I don't even know the last time I actually got the room that I actually booked for, because I drop every single time I drop maybe like a 10, 20 in the front desk, and that's worked me. I was in the industry before this. I was a wholesale sales. That $20 trick, there's like a website about it for Bellagio. You guys go into Bellagio, so I always do that. I think the bellman is another person that I actually take care of, that because it pulls my
bring
car,
your
I want my car fast, or I want things sent to my things fast, and they bring up my.
Yeah.
You tip the bellman when they bring up your shit,
Yeah,
right?
usually maybe $2 or $3 a bag.
Yeah. So that. Whoa, that's.
Yeah, I was like, I
don't want to do
used
that
just
for
do
my,
like 10.
my I'm like,
Well, yeah, like
You
I
got
just make
it.
sure I don't
20
give them
bags.
like a few dollars, but yeah, $10 or something like that.
Yeah, I just kind of budget those three people and the housekeeping.
Yeah.
It's just that your experience there is at least 30% better.
Right.
I feel like if you just
It's
do
their
that.
gratitude,
Yeah.
for getting the gratuity ahead of time with something that they're not expecting. I've actually learned to tip for valet beforehand, like when you're handing your keys, because then they'll position your car in a
That's
better spot.
right.
And that's something that I learned from one of my friends a few years ago, even because I would usually just, like, hey, thank you when I'm getting my keys to leave. But if you want your car faster and in a
Yeah.
better spot, tip them as you're handing them their keys.
Yep.
And then they're like, thanks, cool. And then, like, before you know it, you're like literally parked in the front of the Bellagio, or you're parked in the front at the Venetian.
Yeah.
So
But they know when you pick up the car that you tipped.
I say it
Had-
sometimes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or I double tip.
Oh, they
because
probably
everybody-
saw
Sometimes,
where your
yeah,
car
it's-
was.
I
I
usually
say-
double
and when I
tip.
pick
So
it
the
up, I'm
first
like,
one's
hey,
a
I
larger
tipped on the
one,
way
second
in.
one's
They're
a
like,
small
oh, that's
one,
fine.
And it's usually not the
typically.
same person
No,
either.
it's usually not the same
Sometimes,
person.
The person
so
who
it's
parked
like-
your car is not the person who
never.
brings you your car. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about tipping on free drinks at the casino?
Yeah.
Oh, the cocktail waitresses,
Yeah.
like when you're gaming. Yeah, I always.
I
That way
always
they come
tell-
back.
Yeah, I tell people, I was like,
drinks
I'll
are
give them the
free.
money before they go get
Yeah.
my drink, because then at least I know they'll come back quick
Right.
and they'll keep knowing, like they'll keep coming to me because I know I tipped them, and then I'll watch 3 other people sitting next to me give them $0,
And it's like, you
and
wonder
I'm
why I
like,
didn't come back for
bro,
you?
yeah.
They could be down a couple of grand.
You got $1. You got $1
Yeah.
somewhere.
Even so, that's a different situation than you're gambling. That personal situation with that server is different, so you might have to think about that.
That's true. But I think a lot of gamblers in general were saying that they only tip based on how they're running at the table or at the machine.
I get that. I understand
Which,
that.
But you're getting free drinks.
Right.
but you are.
Yeah, and some people complain that they don't come fast enough. I don't think they come fast enough because you didn't tip them.
Right.
Yeah. So
I've
off the
found them
bat,
to be very fast when you tip.
yeah, off the bat, 10 or 20 off the bat. So, and then.
But I don't drink alcohol, so like I get Red Bull is like the most expensive thing I can get from them. So like if I tip 5,
Yeah.
I'm already paying more than what I
Necessary
would
for the Red Bull.
pay.
But do you need them to come back with like a million Red
That's
Bulls?
the thing. Yeah, a million
Give
Red
them a
Bulls,
dollar
now
next
it's worth
time.
it.
I'm like, I gamble better when I'm drinking, so I'm like, bring it back.
So I should sit down, drop a 20 and go, million Red Bulls, please.
There you
know
go.
what I mean? Keep
Bring
it
the
going.
case.
Give it.
So, what do you think is the future of tipping in Vegas, and how will it change? Any ideas?
Man, I don't think it's gonna change, to be honest. I think it's just become the standard here, being in a travel and tourism industry, and just Vegas being the way that it is. Like, you would hope that restaurants and businesses would pay their employees livable wages so that we wouldn't have to tip, and that would be just like just the thing to be kind, a generous, offering. But I don't think it's going to change. That's just how Vegas is and how it has been, and I think it's just going to continue to be that way. What about you?
Yeah, I think like For me, like Miami is such a touristy place that does autograt, but I think their service is terrible, and that really affects the
And it's
quality
because
of their
the
food.
autograt, because they know they're getting tipped either way.
Yeah. And I don't want that to happen to us. So when I do hear like one restaurant or two restaurants adopted the idea of autograt, and then, you know, if they start talking to other people and it worked for them or it worked for their staff and they decide to start making autograt a thing, I feel like maybe that could be the only thing that changes the culture. But I think that would change the way, you know, our service is, the way our hospitality is. It just kind of makes people a little bit lazier. It also makes people, you know, their expectations just, I don't know, it's weird. Like, I know that if I'm gonna pay somebody an autograt, they tell me autograt is 20%, but then that person gave me shitty service because they know that they're getting tipped, I'm gonna feel some type of way about it. Versus right now, I heavily enjoy going to a restaurant and knowing that different places I'm gonna get a different experience out of it, and then I get to tip based off of that.
Right.
Not, oh, they already know they're gonna get 20% of my tab, so they don't care how they treat me.
Right.
That's the only thing I think could affect things if people decide they want to adopt the autograt lifestyle in Vegas, which I hope not.
I hope not.
What's the autograt changing? The no tippers is basically what they're trying to do. Because here's the thing, I don't think it'll change unless the Cabana girls at Wet Republic start making a lot less money than $200,000, because they have zero problem
They have nothing.
with the tipping industry on that level. Like, if you're a high limit, dealer, you don't want it to change because you're making bank, on tips of whales.
Yeah.
So on that level, do those people want things to change, and do they want autograt? Like, they don't want autograt.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I
So
wouldn't
that's
want
never going to
autograt.
change over there. I feel like the only way that the place that'll change is like this mid-ticket item service industries, where a lot of people could be stiffing them of tipping. That's the only thing, and that too, at the end of the day, to the end user, could be so minute that they might not care. Like at Hostelon, I'm just saying that again because that's the only place that we know. But I wonder how much that actually fucks their business. I don't think it really does. So that people can complain all they want, but as long as the top guys are not changing, and the really bottom guys are not changing, is it really changing the industry? Because, dude, as soon as the Wet Republic girl starts making $60,000 a year on tip compared to $180,
I think he was
that's a
asking
big
that
lifestyle difference. Do you know what I mean?
earlier, whether you would, if you could have it your way, would you prefer to have a tipping culture, or would you prefer that they just pay you a minimum wage and, not cancel tipping altogether?
Or pay you higher.
pay-
What would the hourly rate even be? 50?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, how can
That's what I'm saying.
business
I
afford
think that I would make more money in tips in the long run than I would if you tracked my hourly. So
Well, but you got to think
prefer
about the
tips.
owner of that venue. Can that owner increase their prices that high where people are going to understand, because you're not tipping, our prices now double for the steak or whatever? You know what I mean? That's hard sale.
Yeah.
But
And they already are with inflation, and we've had to increase the cost of dishes just because of the cost of goods.
Yeah,
For
beef,
normal dishes,
straight
just
up.
normal things. Especially a couple of years ago, chicken was so expensive, and when you're running a chicken-based restaurant,
Chicken wing, yeah.
yeah, it's hard when you're trying to make sure that there's some kind of profit there. So even just now, before including the whole tipping, just any type of business owner trying to increase pricing as little as it is, some dishes are $1 or $2 more. People notice, especially if they're regulars and they eat lunch at this spot every time, and they're like, why is my rice bowl $2 more than it was last week? They notice that. So if you were to increase it even more to accommodate for wanting to get rid of tipping and to pay an
there's
actual
gonna be
living
war.
wage,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, no
There'll
one would
be
ever eat
war.
out.
Right. People will just ban the business, and that's very risky. I do kind of want to talk about this Uber Eats fees and tips.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even order.
I'm sorry. I'm a big tipper, but I fucking hate the fees that they're charging. Where does this fees go? Okay, I order,
I've
let's
done
just say, a
it before,
$60
too.
meal. End up being $78 before my tip. So where's the $18 going? Is that going to the
That's going to
driver?
Uber.
Is that going down to Uber? Is that going to the venue? Because if any of that money is going to the driver, I would like to tip less for Uber Eats. I don't know why, But I get so bent out of shape about service fees at Uber Eats. I actually tip less than usual for the drivers, and I feel bad for the drivers.
Yeah, I
but,
was like,
dude,
it's
I'm
not-
paying so much money.
Yeah.
I think I ordered breakfast burritos and carne asada burritos from Roberto's one time. I think Roberto's ended up being, it started at
Yeah,
$11,
like double
but
the
at the
money.
end of the day, it was like $20-something for the burrito, and I'm like,
Yeah.
where the fuck is this money going?
I think the drivers are only collecting the tips.
No, yeah, the
they
drivers
only
don't make
Oh, are
any.
you serious?
Yeah, I'm 100%. Like I used to
They
do
get
it like
$2 to
part-time.
$3 per drop off for like DoorDash and stuff. You get like it depends on what the order is, but you get like $2 to $3, and then on top of that, you get the tips, something like that.
But
It's
don't
like-
you get the
it's like $1 or
driving
$2.
fee?
Yeah,
it's
Like,
like nothing.
what about the driving fee?
No, that doesn't come to you.
think that
So
goes
the
to
only
the app.
thing, yeah, I was about like, it's not
Okay,
much.
Even
so
if it's a
Tyler's
big
saying
order,
it's
like
based
100
on the distance and the order.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
distance of the drive and the amount of the order.
Yeah.
You get a little sliver of
You
that.
still get a little bit, but you are like the restaurant and Uber is who's collecting the fees. Also, if you ever notice Uber Eats charges more for the food than actually.
It's
Yeah, yeah, they're always up.
Owners are,
And that's
because
just
the-
for them
because
to
the commission
cover.
that they have to pay.
Yeah, the cost. But a lot of the fees go to them. So like, say I could take a $40 order. If you tip me $0, I made $2 on that order.
Yeah.
$2.
Oh, really?
$2.
I thought some of that is going
No,
into some
none of
type
it goes
the
to
driver's
them.
money.
Like, none of it goes to them. The only great thing you have is if somebody does have a higher tab, hopefully they gave like an 18 or 20% tip on top of that. Other
Damn,
than that,
sorry, drivers. I've been
Uber-
kind of stiffing the drivers.
That's why I don't
a
even
little
like
bit, dude.
ordering
We'll
from
delete that
there.
part.
'Cause
Wow.
I'm like,
I'd rather go pick
No,
it up.
I'm realizing
Yeah.
that that's not the way it goes. I know that most of our, not our, but like most of the restaurant owners I talk to, because they did somewhere along the pandemic line, they did away with matching because Uber Eats used to be very strict on not being able to increase your price on Uber Eats versus your regular price. But now that's obviously not
No, it's
happening
not.
anymore.
It's
So
because they
everybody's
still want
tacking
people to
on
use their third
the
party.
percentages that they're about to pay to Uber Eats on top of. So if you order a steak burrito in the restaurant, it's $9, but it's $14 on Uber
Online.
Eats. That's
It's usually
happening.
At least 20 to 25%.
So they're
more.
covering their percentages that they have to pay out to Uber Eats by just increasing that. And I thought all this inflation on Uber Eats, somewhere along the line, that money's going into drivers, but zero.
No, zero.
It's all
I mean, maybe a
Uber
little
Eats.
bit because of the cost of the bill is going up. But really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Uber or Lyft in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people that commute to work. One driver was bitching to me about how a lot of locals just don't tip.
Yeah,
at
they
all.
know.
Yeah,
Oh, just for regular rides?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
And the
Sorry.
more you take
That's-
rides,
I heard timeshare salespeople were the worst. That's what they told me.
I feel like the more you take rides, the more they give you a discount on it. So it's like now that ride was like should have been $10 and it's $5 because you take Lyft so much, and that person's making even less money off of your ride.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Damn, we got to tip these drivers. 'Cause that's
I
pretty
know.
big service industry. Like
Did
that's
you hear about them not allowing surcharge anymore
No.
during events like Uber and stuff, and that's why they don't want to take you to like
big events.
big events and stuff because now they're not allowed to charge you the surcharge that they used to be able to charge you.
Oh, the surge. Okay.
yeah, they can't
yeah.
surge like
Oh, I
I think
didn't
it was
know.
Beyonce concert.
And then
We
they
could not
stuck
get a
in
ride
traffic.
there. Yeah.
Because they don't wanna
get
come
stuck
there.
in traffic
Nobody
for no
wanted to go
reason.
there. Nobody
Yeah.
wanted to be stuck on traffic getting back, and they also were like, "We make the same amount.
Right.
We don't get to charge you $70 like we used to for New Year's and stuff.
I
Like
was
they
actually
don't."
in an Uber once going to the airport, and the guy asked me, he's like, "How much did you pay for this ride?" And I was like, "Oh, like just $30." And he was like, "I'm getting paid $10 for this," and I felt so bad. I was like,
So your gas.
I was like, "I'm sorry." I was like, "That's."
I don't even know if that's low, high, like what
I don't know
You
either.
know, like,
Like,
what
for-
does
I
that
don't
mean? That's
know,
30%, 33% of the
He's
ride.
like,
Yeah, I feel like
paid,
that was a good
$10 or something for this, and I don't know if he like does that with every ride as a means of like ensuring that he gets a tip. Because I felt really bad, and I was
That-
like, "Damn, let me look him up."
Maybe.
that
Get some,
would've-
get some
that would've
empathy
been
going. Yeah. That's not,
Unless
felt
he's
bad. I was like,
factoring
damn,
in
let
like
me
gas.
do a
Gas
little
is really
something.
expensive right now. So if
Yeah.
they're not helping
That's why
or
I got
covering
an
gas,
electric car. Because gas is crazy.
yeah, gas
need
is
to put a
crazy.
picture of the kids on there.
And if I'm driving and I gotta pay gas
Starving.
and pay for you,
You know, like hungry.
I don't know. What about home services? Like carpet cleaning. I'm still tipping like 20%.
100%. That's service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
And then landscaping?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not just a service.
tattoo artists.
Tattoo art. Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's yeah. I was like, I have a friend, and I was trying to explain to her because she's never been a server, and she was like, I don't understand tipping, and I was like, do people tip you when you do their tattoo because you did such a great job. They want to just give you an extra $20. She was like, yeah. I was like, that's tipping.
Same concept.
Yeah.
Just with food.
Yeah. I
Never
mean,
had
I
a tattoo,
don't have a tattoo either.
so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I don't
But good
know.
to know.
Yeah, tattoos cost a lot
You
of
should ask
money.
Jack.
They
Does
do,
she get tipped?
expensive.
You know?
$400 or $500.
Okay, before we wrap up, is there any possible story you guys have of maybe either the best tipping story ever or the worst tipping story ever?
The worst story is that recent event that we didn't really get a full retainer, but I paid out.
Oh no.
Dude, it was such a big event. Remember, I think I paid like $400 tip for the food and like $200 tip for the bar or something like that separate, and got stiffed on the retainer.
Wow.
That hurt.
Should we
Had a
call-
good time.
should
Though.
we
You know
call
what,
him out?
though?
Should
At
we
the
call
end of the
him
day,
out
it was
now?
a really, really good time. You know, but
And then there was that crazy email from 2 years ago that they sent.
yeah.
They sent the mass email to like all these foodies,
was that about tip? Yeah,
all
that
the
was-
restaurants,
yeah,
and
you're right.
how a bunch of
They were
people, some
taking
of them in this
advantage.
room, were not good people.
What email? I didn't hear nothing about this.
Yeah, this was. I think this is before
Yeah, it
you
was-
guys blew
Yeah.
up.
Yeah,
I was like,
it
I've
a
definitely
like
had
an email blast.
restaurants reach out to me or like say like I tipped somebody at the restaurant. They'll be like, "Oh, you're so much nicer than the other foodies we had here," or "Thank you for tipping me." I think Catcher's Fish House, I gave them like $70, and the girl was like, "I never like I even make more than $10," and I'm like, oh, "Okay, I get it," because just more of like a grab and go. You sit your own table, no one really serves you. Then they have that little machine robot that serves you. And so I was like, oh, okay. But she was like, a lot of people will come in here, especially content creators. They're not nice and they won't tip. And to me, that's sad. Yeah. Because it just makes me feel like now every time I step into a new restaurant, who knows what their experience was with people like us. And I don't know how they're going to feel. They're not always welcoming, or they just don't like, you know, they don't understand it. They don't want you there either. So it just kind of takes a toll on it. So.
Who are
I know.
they?
So like, it was taste buds specifically. Like Chef Trish was like, "You're so much nicer than some of the people who have like come in here before. They'll come into my like in the kitchen and treat my staff like terribly." And I'm like, "What's going on? You're getting free food."
Right.
That's really weird.
And I felt really bad that somebody would even pull you aside to tell you how nice you're being. And I'm like, gosh.
I've had a few instances where they're like, "Oh, you don't have to do that," because I tip pretty decently, and they're like, "Oh, you don't have to do that." I'm like, "That's the point. I don't have to, but I want to." You know.
I feel like there has to be some creators that are just for free food.
Oh yeah,
And they're just
yeah.
doing the numbers game, and
Sure.
they just try to order as much as possible when they're there, and they're probably the ones that are not even providing that much results for the clients anyway, but they're just in this to get as much as food as possible.
there's people who make videos.
Well, that's gonna be like bad stories
wanna know how to
of
get
one
free
after
food?
another if you do that. You know what I mean? And I remember long time ago there was another blast on Facebook from that brunch place in downtown, saying that
At Eat.
girls, at that chef,
Yeah.
chef whatever her name was.
Yeah.
She's like, girls, and as soon as she said they came in with DSLR cameras, I knew that it wasn't us. Like, not us. But I remember her like blast Facebook post saying, bunch of DSLR were strapped around their neck, demanded blah blah blah, and didn't want to pay the bill, like all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, maybe that does. If that happens a lot, then I completely understand the venue's standpoint of that, right? Because they're just getting fucked.
Right. And anyone who read that thinks we're all in cahoots.
Yeah, and-
with that
And
too.
that's so
which sucks.
you know you're getting tagged like there's people that are like tagging us in that comment, and I'm like, well, they said DSLR, so I know it's not our.
Right.
Yeah, I just leave it to bad
This was
taste.
like 10 years, like 8 years ago, or
like 8
something
years
like
ago,
that.
yeah. But I think, not everyone is in the same financial situation as others. So perhaps they get into the game for free food and they don't have enough to tip. But if you're going in, I mean, that's just the standard now. It has to be 20%. It has to be like people who walk up on the strip to the hostess be like, I have 500K followers. I need a table, which is complete horseshit. I've heard a lot of that.
I was like, when you told me that happens, I was like, is that really a thing? Do people just, hey, like, here's me and like sit me down?
Yeah.
That's insane.
I haven't heard of it at any of my restaurants, but
Yeah,
I
I
do get
haven't.
reached out on Instagram because I run all of the socials, but I get reached out pretty frequently. And it's like, and sometimes if they give me numbers or they give me like a paragraph, hey, I'm so and so, I do like food content creation, I'd love to help you out. Like if you're selling the business on what you can do for them, yes, I'm all for that. I'm like, yes, get it. I'll go ahead and set up a collab with you. Like we'll do something. But if it's just like, hey, can I come in? I'm like, I don't know, can you? You can make I literally will tell them that reservations can be made here.
Perfect. That's great.
That's it. That's all you're getting. Like, no.
Yeah, or like
I don't care that you have
people are
12,000
like-
followers and your booty's all over your Instagram. What are you going to help me sell?
Or people will try to like catch you in the comments and be like, I gotta come here soon, or like can't
Sammy
wait to
just
come
took
in
off her
here. And
glove
I'm
for a
like,
second. She just took off her glove for a second and put on a fucking, okay, but I do have to say, I don't care what your financial situation is. If you're getting into this for free food, fuck you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you don't belong in our crew because
community.
we're in this for the content and we're in this for the not even at the end of the day in a selfish mode. Like not even the ROI of our posts. I think about content. I think about how to benefit each other.
That's the difference. It's
If
true
you're
content
coming in
creation.
here because you think that we just get free food all
Yeah.
the time and that's what you're getting, like, fuck you, get the fuck out of the business. You know what I mean? That, I just don't agree with that.
That's a real right there.
There you go.
There we go.
fucking get out of the business.
We don't want you here. You can't sit with us.
No, I've definitely seen some content creators make videos like that. You want to know how to get free food?
Right.
Do this, basically. Just say you're this and reach out to a
Yeah,
restaurant and
that's-
they'll give you free
for
food.
me,
and
that's
I'm
like
just
a-
like,
It's not for me, dog.
like that's terrible.
There's one big TikToker that was DMing a bunch of restaurants. You probably got some of them too. And then I said, yeah, come on in. And he's like, well, I want to get compensated for.
I know.
He followed
like,
up with
if
a
you're gonna
compensation
reach out
after.
to a
I'm like,
business.
Oh, yeah,
and
you're
then
not getting
ask if we're
paid.
going to pay you.
Yeah,
no.
that's bad.
Yeah.
Now, if I
It
reach
was
out
really
to you
weird.
and I offer a collaboration, that's a different story. But if you're reaching out to come in and then you also want to get paid on top of that, get out of here.
I mean, there's a way
weird.
to actually
go about it, yeah.
There's a way to do cold calls for that to turn into sponsorship. There's a way of doing that, but you're obvious you're not a good salesman enough to,
Yeah.
be a good. You know what I mean? Like
Totally.
You have to.
I can't imagine that's ever worked.
Kind of entitlement for me. Like
It
that's
usually does when
insane.
it's a small business owner that doesn't understand social media. So a lot of people buy followers, a lot of people buy engagement these days, and a lot of business owners that don't have their social media is run by people that actually know what they're doing. They'll go, yeah, come on in, and then the post will do terribly. And it's just like, well, because
And then they don't want
know
to pay
what
anybody
look
else
for.
anymore.
Exactly. And then they're like, we hate influencers. It doesn't work. And it's like, it's not necessarily that it doesn't work. It's that you chose the wrong person to trust and rely on, So that's also a different component of that.
True.
Yeah, if the
That's a
venue
whole
said
other
yes to
episode.
that, it's their fault.
Another episode.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. Yeah. But this was really fun. Thanks for being here and giving your
thanks for
great
your time.
insight. Super
Thanks for
fun.
having us.
See you in a couple weeks. All right.